My friends built me another prison and challenged me to break out of it, but the problem was this one seemed impossible. This prison was inspired by our channel mascot, the turtle, and got the name Turtle Egg, but breaking out of this prison was not going to be easy. You can't tell from the outside, but on the inside you notice that it's completely layered with bedrock, making it impossible to break out of. There was only one way in or out of the prison, but am I going to be good enough to find it, or am I going to end up stuck in the prison forever? I don't know, but we're going to find out because the escape starts now. I started off by looking around the room I was in, and I quickly realized escaping this prison was not going to be easy. I was in some sort of bedrock trap, but this wasn't just any trap, this one was very familiar. I used this exact same trap in the thumbnail of my last YouTube video because of how inescapable it looked, but now I actually had to escape it. It was only the first room and I was very confused. With no items in my inventory, I really didn't see any way for me to get out of this bedrock trap, so I started looking around the room for like a lever or a button, but I couldn't find anything. It almost got to the point where I was convinced my friends were just messing with me and there was no way out of this, but then I had a very good idea. I used F5. See, using F5 gave me a whole new perspective and I was able to see a chest I couldn't have seen before. The reason I didn't see the chest before is because you have to walk to this exact spot and shift just to see a sliver of it. But now that I did, I could access the chest and I now had an oak log, an oak plank, and a jungle log. The question now became, what could I build with these items that would get me out of this bedrock trap? And I actually knew exactly what to do. I needed to make a boat. So I turned the logs into planks, but this is where I almost made a massive mistake. I almost built the crafting table with my oak planks, but right before I did, I realized I shouldn't do this. You need 5 of the same type of wood to build a boat. So if I had done that, I would have been stuck in this bedrock trap for the rest of the run. Luckily, I realized and used the jungle planks to make a crafting table, and then I built myself an oak boat and successfully escaped the first trap. After I escaped, I picked up my boat and I also collected the chest and the crafting table in case I needed them later on. Then I looked around the first room to make sure there was nothing else I was missing. Once I was sure I was good, I moved on to the next room. The next room was just a big pit of lava with a ledge at the other side, and I was a little confused at first, but I quickly came up with one way to get across. I was pretty sure I could use the crafting table and the chest to parkour along the right side to the ledge, but there was also a second, much stupider way to get across, and that's what I went with. So I backed up and built up my courage, and then I sprinted towards the lava and successfully landed a boat jump to the other side. I looked back to see if there was anything new that I hadn't seen before, but it didn't look like it, so I went to explore the new area. Right off the bat, I saw it was some sort of icy snowy area with a 2-block drop. Luckily, with the chest and crafting table, if I needed to, I could get back up, so I just went ahead and dropped down. Right off the bat, I noticed there was a furnace with 3 raw iron and a crafting table tucked away in the wall. It was so far back in the wall, I was pretty sure if I broke it, I wouldn't be able to get it. The only other thing I noticed in the room was the ice and snow blocks on the floor. I broke one of the pieces of ice trying to get water, but I quickly realized all the ice was packed ice, so I wasn't going to get any water from it. I then was kind of confused, so I just went around the room breaking random ice and snow blocks trying to see if there was anything hidden. I wasn't finding anything until I destroyed this one in the back and found this massive drop off that I assumed led to the next area. I was still really confused how to get down there though until I realized one of the snow blocks was not like the rest of them. Once I realized this, I knew exactly what I had to do to get down there. I ran back to the furnace and used my chest and crafting table as fuel to smelt the 3 raw iron. See, I knew from my own riddles that a chest and crafting table were each worth 1.5 fuel, which would give me exactly what I needed to get 3 iron ingots. I used the iron ingots to craft a bucket, and at this point I did something that could have been a mistake, but I was pretty sure I didn't need the crafting table anymore, so I broke it to make sure there was nothing hidden behind it, and there wasn't. I ran back to the piece of snow that looked weird to me before and scooped it up. It was powdered snow. I now had a way to get to the bottom of the pit, but I wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything up here that was important before I went down. So, out of paranoia, I broke basically every piece of snow and ice to make sure there was nothing hidden behind it. And once I finished, I turned around and realized it was all just bedrock. I had one last thing I wanted to check before I went down though. I broke the furnace to make sure there was nothing hidden behind that. So once I was really sure there was nothing up here I needed, I started using the powdered snow to build myself down the pit. See, powdered snow canceled fall damage, so as long as I was careful, I could use it to build my way to the bottom of the pit safely, and I managed to pull it off. I now had access to a whole new area. The first thing I noticed as I went down the hallway is I was right above the void. There was a 3-block jump that wouldn't be too hard to hit, but I didn't want to make the jump more times than I had to. So I turned around and double checked the new area to make sure I hadn't walked past anything important, but it just seemed like a normal bedrock hallway. I even went to the bottom of the pit and looked up, but I didn't see anything other than bedrock. So I was pretty sure I didn't need anything. I went back to the hole and pulled out my parkour skills and managed to jump to the other side. The first thing I noticed on the other side was a chicken that was attached to a fence with a lead, and the chicken was actually named Subscribe, and I figured the reason they did this is they wanted me to be reminded that YouTube says about 90% of you hate me and want the channel to fail. So if you don't hate me, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. The next thing I noticed up here was a chest, and I opened it up to see it had a boat inside, so I destroyed the chest to pick up the boat and the chest. At this point, I was pretty confused what to do with this random assortment of items. I basically had 2 main problems. I had no idea where to go next, and I also had no idea what to do with all my items, but I started figuring out the second part pretty quickly. Once I saw the bedrock spike above the void, I was pretty sure I knew what I needed to do. See, I had basically all the items I needed to dangle myself into the void, but I had absolutely no idea why I would want to do that. That's until I looked at the coordinates. I was on Y level 4, not Y level 1, meaning there could still be blocks and items down there that were useful for me. Once I figured all this out, I looked up a quick YouTube tutorial because I didn't want to screw this part up and get stuck down here. Then I went back to our pet chicken subscribe and grabbed the lead and the fence. I took all three of them back to the void. The first thing we had to do to pull this off was place the fence over the void. Next, we attached the chicken to the fence with the lead. Then we just have to push the chicken into the void. At this point I was really scared because if the lead broke we would be stuck here and lose the run. Luckily it all went fine. I don't fully understand why this next part works, but I think it's because the boat's an entity and a chicken's also an entity, meaning the boat can't pass through it. So for the next part, you place a boat next to the edge of the bedrock and start pushing it into the void just like the chicken. It's going to take a while, but once you do it all the way, the boat falls down and lands on the chicken's head and floats there. You now have a platform that you can stand on to stay above the void. I'd never built this in Minecraft before and it felt really unsafe. I kept feeling like if I walked out onto the boat, I was going to fall right into the void. But I knew I followed the tutorial correctly, and at this point I was positive it was what I had to do to escape the prison, so after a little thinking I just went for it. I now had access to the new area. The first thing I noticed was this chest, and it had 2 ender pearls inside of it. The only other thing I could see down here was this bedrock cubby that looked like it was where I was supposed to go next. I looked around for a while and tried to think of a way to get over there other than throwing an ender pearl, but I was pretty sure it was impossible, so after a bit of thinking I just threw the pearl and got to the next area. Before we continued on, we turned around and said goodbye to our pet chicken, who's probably going to spend the rest of his life floating above the void with the boat on his head, but he was a true hero. After we said our goodbyes, we turned around and looked around. The first room was just a normal empty bedrock room. The second room was also just a normal bedrock room with 1 cactus in it. I broke the sand underneath the cactus to see if there was anything hidden, but there was just more bedrock. So I put the cactus back where it was. A lot of you may have seen the trick before you can do with an ender pearl and a ladder that lets you face through bedrock. People do it all the time in their survival worlds to get above the bedrock roof of the nether. You can actually do the exact same thing with cactus. And I was pretty sure that's what I had to do to move on to the next area. The only problem was I was only going to get 1 shot at it, but I just went for it. And luckily I did it right and gained access to the final area. In the final area I was stuck at the bottom of this really big pit, and there was a sign on the wall that said power here with an arrow pointing below it. When I looked up, I also realized there was some water being held back by a piece of cobblestone. At this point, I was pretty sure I knew what I had to do. All I had to do was provide power to this block, and that would drop the water, allowing me to swim out of the hole. The only problem was the only things I had in my inventory was a chest and a bucket of powdered snow. I had no idea how I was going to apply power. I was convinced I missed something earlier in the prison and had lost the run. That's until I took a better look at my inventory. I didn't have a regular chest, I had a trap chest. Before, when I found the chest with the boat in it, I didn't take a close enough look. If I had looked closer, I would have realized it was trapped. So I had everything I needed. I placed the chest where it told me and opened it. When I did, I heard piston noises. I looked up and I could see the water flowing down to the bottom of the hole. After this, I decided to break the chest and the sign in case I was going to need them at the top, and then I just swam up the water to see what was next for me. When I got to the top, I could see a slit in the wall. I placed down my chest so I could stand on top of it and have a better view, and I could see a doorway leading to another room. I placed down the powdered snow and picked up the water source I used to climb up here. Then I walked up to the wall and put down the water source and replaced it in the slit so I could swim through it. After I did this, I was really surprised to see that I had found the exit. The Bedrock Turtle Egg Prison has officially been cracked.